Hey, howdy folks. Long time no video. So in this video, we'll look at several options for sending out emails from Microsoft Flow, and I think this is something that you would want to look at, consider, educate yourself on, especially if you're a Dynamics 365 CE or CRM customer. And the reason is because if you've been using Dynamics for a long time, you know that whenever an email goes out, there's a certain format that the email has, right? And there are not many ways. Well, actually, there's no way to like make it interactive, especially when it comes to approvals, or especially when you're looking at some sort of an input from the receiver of the email. So think about approval processes, especially when so there's something happens, and an email, at least one email needs to go out to an approver, right? And in many cases there are multiple approvers that need to let's say approve an opportunity, or some sort of a procurement stuff, or a grant application, and things like that. And what we've seen in Dynamics especially is that so whenever an update happens on a record, an email goes out, and usually the email would have a link to the Dynamics record, right? So there's no easy way for someone to just say, by looking at that email, say yes, I approve. So they have to like maybe click on the link of the record, and then open Dynamics, and then check a box or update some field there, which triggers another set of emails, and so on and so forth. Uh, so all of that can be avoided, and actually you can create a much enhanced and enriched experience for your users. And what's really also amazing is that you can avoid some like licensing things with Flow as well. Especially when your approver, so maybe they're a sales manager or a VP of sales or some procurement person, right? They don't necessarily need access to Dynamics. All they need to know is some information regarding the record, and then provide their input, whether they approve it, whether they reject it, etc. So we'll just see how Flow can actually like enhance all of that and make the whole process much more like smoother and nicer for everyone involved. So and I'm gonna write a blog about it too, but and this is kind of my outline for it. But I also thought that I'll use this little OneNote page for as my agenda slide as well for this video. And I'm gonna just like kind of blabber here. I don't really have a plan per se, so I'm pretty sure this will be like a longish video, so bear with me here. I have a tendency to just ramble on and on and on, but hopefully you'll find something constructive in this video. But anyway, so what we'll look at in this video is we'll look at some like approval processes, right? So approval through Flow emails. How does that really work? Because approval is a thing of its own in Flow. So you will see very soon that if you have an approval process, you can set up an approval flow where an email goes out to an approver, and they get buttons within the email which says approve or reject, right? And they can also add their own comments. So the email becomes very interactive. And which also means that they don't have to open a Dynamics record. And the approval can happen either through an email or through the Flow app on the phone. So we look at that. So we look at the approval mechanism, right? So the approve and reject, which is the basic form of approval in Flow. Then there's also, you can also add your own custom responses as well. So this is something that Flow just recently got as a new feature. So instead of just having approve or reject as options, you can also have your own custom options as well. And we'll look at that also. And then outside of the approval mechanism, you can also have some sort of an input from the end user also. So like if you're trying to so let's say you're sending an email to a customer, and you're saying, hey, like, would you like more information about A, B, or C. So you can give them options where they say yes or no or maybe, or give me more information and things like that. So so you can send emails with options from Flow. So again, all of this is making emails interactive. It's not just displaying information, and it's not making the person, the receiver, hit reply, right, and then type in the response. It has its own like little mechanism through which you are tracking the person's responses. And what's really amazing, you'll see, is that you can, based on the input that you get from the user, you can perform subsequent actions as well. Okay, so I think anyone who's using Dynamics, they can definitely enhance their whole like email experience by using Flow. So let's dive in. Let's see how. And again, fair warning, I don't necessarily have a plan here. I have things in my mind, and I just hope things go well. If things don't go well, I will probably make some edits in this video, which means it's a lot more work for me. But anyway, we'll figure that out. So what I will do is I will. So let's start with some approvals, right? And what I want in my scenario here is that I would say, so for every opportunity in my Dynamics CE, if the revenue is higher than, let's say, $500,000, I want an approval process to kick in. I want my sales manager to approve that we work on this. So I'm just making this up for the simplicity here for this demo. So anyway, so that's my use case, right? So what I will do here is I will go into my flows, start a new one, create from blank. And so let's say, should we do created or updated? Let's do created. Okay, so whenever a new opportunity is created, I'm gonna choose my org name here, and then say, okay, this will be opportunities, right? So whenever a new opportunity is created, I will do a little check first. Okay, so let's do a condition, and we'll say if the estimated revenue is equal to, or is greater than $500,000. Okay, then I want an approval mechanism or an approval email to kick in. Okay, so if it's yes, so we'll add an action, and let's just look for approval here. And when you type in approval, so here's our connector, and there are several like actions that you will see for approval. And you will also see that, so there's a version 2, and then there's like a version 1, etc. It's always, especially if you've not worked with approval before, I would recommend hitting this little I for information icon, because this will give you, like it'll tell you what's really going on. And for some reason, it doesn't want to. Well, okay, I have to click on it. So, when you click on it, it'll tell you like, okay, this is what it does, right? And you can also see the difference between like version 1 here and version 2. So you will notice that, for example, this step right here, the approval is not cancelable, version 1, and version 2, the approval is cancelable, right? So that kind of stuff. So they keep adding and improving these triggers and actions. So if you see so many steps, just click the I just to understand what's going on. So anyway, so what I will do here is I will say start and wait for an approval. Okay, so I'll do this, and what's the approval type? And now we'll go with this one first. So just the basic approve reject. You do see custom responses. We'll look at that next. So I'll just say approve reject. We'll keep it simple. We'll just say first to respond. So if one person responds, our job is done. Okay, and we'll have just one approver anyway in our email. So when I select approve reject, I can give it a title, right? So I can say, all right, approve, or we can say please approve. So this is the title of the email, please approve, and I'll just call the topic of the opportunity. Assign to, so this will be a person in my organization. And just so you know, this person right here does not have a Dynamics license in my environment here. Okay, so we are sending, we're asking someone to approve something, and but they don't have access to Dynamics because they don't need it, right? So all they need is information from that record in Dynamics, which I'm going to add in the details here. So this is where I can add some, like, okay, what's the estimated revenue? Who's the contact? What's this opportunity about, etc. So all of that can be added here. And notice how, like, it says markdown supported. So you can actually like make the email body much nicer. You can bold it and add bullet points, etc. Not going to go into much details here, but definitely look at this URL. Go to this page. Just to understand how you can actually like nicely format the body of your email. But anyway, so this is where I will say, okay, the estimated revenue is this, right? So this is coming from our revenue field, and then estimated close date is obviously this, and then let's say, okay, who's the customer? And I can just say, let's look at the contact here. Okay, so something like that, right? So what we're doing here is that we are creating the body of the email, and we can add our own text also. Please approve or reject the following. Okay, and then we have all of the details. So we can add some more things here as well. So item link, item description, but I'm not going to add them because this person doesn't really need to access the actual record, and also they don't have a license for it. So this is kind of not required. So once this email kicks in, the next thing we'll do is we look at the response, right? So the next thing we'll do is we'll kind of let's add a switch. So here I can say on the outcome of the approval email, right? If the outcome is approve, then do something. And this is where I'll say, send me an email notification. Okay. And we will say approved. And let's do the topic again, right? And in the body of the email, I'll say this request was approved. Here is what your requester said, and this will be a comment that the requester will add in the email, and you'll see what it looks like. So this right here, response comments. Okay. So that's it. Okay, so this looks pretty decent. So what all we are saying is, okay, when an opportunity is created, if the opportunity's estimated revenue is greater than 50,000, start the approval process. Send the approval to this person. They may be a manager, a procurement manager, or a sales manager, whoever, and send them an email with all the details of the opportunity, and then look for the outcome. If the outcome is approved, then send me a notification telling me that this has been approved. And similarly, if it's reject, then we can do a similar email or some other action as well. So let's just see what it looks like, how it works. I'm going to save it. And it's always a good idea to like give it a nice name, because if you don't give it a name, it just has this it makes up its own name based on the steps that it has, and it's just it's confusing. It doesn't really help. So we'll call it basic approval email, right? Let's just call it that, right? Okay, now in my opportunities, I will create a new one, and I'll call it hot new opportunity. Let's call it that. And who's the contact? It's Jim Glenn. It's always Jim Glenn because he's the first one in the list, and it's just easy to select him. Don't need anything else really. What we really need is this. So let's make this 800,000, 3 zeros, and then add a date. Okay, let's do this. All right, so now let's save it and let's see what the flow does. Hopefully it works. You know, usually when I make these videos, something goes wrong, and I've been going on and on for like so long. And when things go wrong, then I have to stop the video and start all over again. Anyway, but I digress. Okay, so going back here in my flow, so if I go into the run history, excuse me, let's give it a few seconds here, and we should see, okay, so it's running, right? And let's see what steps it's performing. There we go. All right, so the email's gone out already. So we now know that this condition is running, right? And it's waiting for the outcome of the email. So let me show you what it looks like. In my inbox here, if I look at this right here. Oh, this is from my previous flow. Ignore this. This is the one that I just created. So we have the, please approve or reject the following. And we have some details from the opportunity. And now as an approver, I can just click on approve, right? And if I want, I can add in a response as well, or like a comment as well. And I can say, yes, definitely approved. Looks exciting, right? So I can add my own comments and whatnot. And then when I click submit, so notice how within the email, it's actually like asking me for my input. So it didn't make me click any links. It didn't make me sign into Dynamics. It's giving me all the details that I need to know as an approver in this email. And then it also asks me to make a decision there and then. You saw this is in an email. You can also get an approval like notification on the Flow app as well on your phone. So if the sales manager is out and about, they can just get a notification on their phone, and they can just say approve and whatnot through the notification mechanism. Anyway, so now let's look at this, right? So all of that ran, and the outcome was approve. And now let's look at our switch. So if something went wrong here. Oh, you know what? I know what happened here. So because I just need to change my case. 1 second, I'll tell you what just happened here. Need to do this capital A, right? Okay, so that's why the last step was skipped. Let's just do this again real quick. My flow is saved. I'm going to just use my previous input for for testing this flow out, and we should get another email very soon. And let's give it a few seconds here. Okay, there we go. So here it is, right? So I can say, all right, yes, approved, very exciting, go get them, right? And I submit it. So now what happens is it's going to look at the subsequent steps here, and obviously this time, so it was approved. So now we get another email, which is to me, right? So if I look at my own inbox here, this request was approved. Here's what your request has said. Very exciting, go get them, right? So now the comment that the requester, the approver added, I can see it. So, so we tracked a lot of things here, so first of all, we sent out an email with details. And then not only did we track whether it was approved or rejected, but then the comment of the approver was also tracked and sent out to someone else. And now, in my flow here, so based on this step, I can just say, all right, so if it was approved, send an email, and then do so many other things as well, right? So that's the beauty of the approval mechanism within Flow. So you are not making your users log into Dynamics first of all. Okay, so it's all very, very quick, and any input that they have is tracked and quantified, and then subsequent actions are planned as well. So this was like the basic approval, right? So you either approve it or reject it. Now let's just change this a little bit. Now what we'll do is, in our scenario now, we will say, so let's say any opportunity that's more than $500,000, we need to spend some specialists, right? Because for the most part, we deal with some like smaller opportunities. Usually every deal that we work on, it's probably the revenues around like $200,000, let's say. But anything that's more than 500,000, we need some special people to help us close that deal. We may have some specialists on our team, and depending on what kind of opportunity it is, we may send a specific person, right? So for that reason, now, so not only are we approving or rejecting this, but we're also specifying who should be working on this opportunity, right? So in that case, I can say, so let's go with like the custom responses in this case. And notice when I say custom responses, it gives me the option to add my own responses instead of approve reject here. So now I can say, all right, so what I want in my email is I want the name of the sales specialists who can help me close this deal. So let's say we have two specialists. One's name is Peter and another person's name is, let's call him Anthony, right? And then in some cases, we may have to tag team, right? So in some cases, we may have to send both of them. So how about we give the approver a third option, which is Peter and Anthony, okay? So now what I'm doing is I'm changing the options that I'm giving to the approver. Okay, so instead of approve, reject, we have names of salespeople. So depending on the situation and the use cases, the responses can obviously be different. So anyway, okay, so this is pretty good. So everything else, okay, so we need to change this here. So now the outcome, we are looking at, let's say Peter, right? So if the outcome is Peter, then let's just pretend that the email goes to Peter, right? So that's what that is. Similarly, we can add our other cases as well. So this would be if the outcome is Anthony, then do something. Let's just add this one real quick. Just send an email. Or send someone else an email. How about that? Okay, so this time we will say, okay, send it to Anthony. Just pretend this is Anthony's email. And here we can, just create our own, you are on this opportunity or something like that. Call this new, so let's give the subject the topic, and we can also modify this a little bit and say new opportunity assigned, right? Okay, something like this. So save it, and let's look at it again. So I'm just going to test it, use the previous flow run to test it. Okay, so very soon we should see an email in our other inbox right here. Okay, so now let's see what happens here. Now check this out. Instead of approve or reject, we are saying, okay, who should be working on this opportunity, right? So as an approver, I can just look at all the details here, and we're saying, whoa, okay, it's 800,000. So let's send both of them, for example, right? We don't have the flow for it, but we'll just go with Peter, and we'll say, all right, Peter, this is a huge deal. All the best, right? Something like that. Everything else stays the same. So now, actually, you know what? Let's do Anthony, because Anthony's email goes out to someone else, right? So let's do This is a huge deal, Anthony. All the best. Okay, and then I say submit. Right, and so let's see what this does here. The rest of the flow, we're looking at our switch, and this time, since it was Anthony, the email goes out to Anthony, right? And let's see what it looks like real quick. I'm going to log into my Gmail. There. You're on this opportunity, right? So as you can see, you perform, you give the approver some very specific options instead of just approve and reject. So so that is also a part of the approval mechanism now. Clear as mud? All right, cool. So the next thing that we'll do is we will look at something that's not necessarily an approval. It's more of a way to get input from your customers or anyone else. Actually, before I proceed any further, let me show you one thing that's kind of interesting. So I'm on a Mac here, and just so you know, so whenever you whenever you are working with Outlook Web or Outlook on a Windows computer, you get this like nice approvals email with nice buttons, etc. If you're on a Mac and if you're using Outlook on the Mac, you get these buttons, okay? And you'll notice that clicking this just like opens Flow. And actually, it does not really register the input from the user. So just keep this in mind. If your users are using Outlook for Mac, at least at this point, you will not be able to just select the option and add an input or add a comment within your email. So that's just some sort of a limitation for Outlook for Mac. Okay. Anyway, so coming back to our flow here. So this time, what we'll do is we will give some options to our users so we can like track their input and their interest. So I'm just going to start with a new flow. Let's go back into our flow and just create new. And this time, let's say update. Yeah, this time we'll do update. So when a dynamics record is updated, okay, and we'll do our drill here and just stick to opportunities for now. And I'm trying to think of a use case here. So what will it be? So current situation, current need, purchase time frame. Okay, so we'll probably do something around if the purchase time frame is immediate, then we'll send out an email with some options. Maybe we'll say, hey, so it looks like you are in a hurry to buy our product. Would you want someone from our sales team to come to your office tomorrow? Okay, so let's do something like that. So in my flow here, hello, where did you go? Okay, record is updated, and we will say, we'll do a check condition, right? And we'll say if the purchase time frame label, okay, so that's important. Otherwise, purchase time frame is just the option set values. This is the actual option set labels. And then we'll say if the purchase time frame label is immediate. Let's do immediate. Then send an email, right? And then we'll say send email with options. So there's a send an email, and then there's send email with options. Let's look for it real quick. There, send email with options. Is there a version 2 of it? I don't think so. Okay, send email with options it is. So when we, okay, there you go. When you select this here, so let's just go with the subject. We'll just call it meet tomorrow. right? And then the options here is, so these are the options that we provide. So we will say, yes, no, maybe. Okay, and then in the body we can say, should we send our specialist to your office tomorrow? Okay, and we can make this interesting. For sure. Let me think. No way, right? So let's do that. And it's I always prefer to send them as HTML messages, so I'll just say yes to that. You can add some more attachments to it if you want, etc. But and you can add some header text, selection text, etc. as well. But let's just keep this simple, and this is all we're doing, right? So so we're sending them an option, an email with some very specific options, right? So and let's add the next step as well. So we will say, and let's just go with switch. I like switches. And all we are saying is, if they say, so the selected option, right? So if the selected option is, what was it? Let's say, let me think. Or let's just go with for sure, right? Then perform your next actions. So in this case, we will just send an email. Okay, so I'll just send an email to myself, and I'll call it go tomorrow, and this will be some fields from the opportunity, right? Hopefully this all makes sense. Okay, pretty decent, right? So if the opportunity is updated, we'll send the oh, who is it going to? So for our demo, let's just go with our other mailbox, technologyblog.com. Okay, and yeah, everything looks good. And if they say for sure, then I get a notification so that I do go meet this person tomorrow. Okay, save it, and let's just call this send email with options, right? And go save, and let's make a change here. So I will say immediate and save this. All right, and give it a few seconds so that it starts running. And once it runs, we should see a run right here. Let's give it 5 to 10 more seconds. I did this right thing, right? Immediate. Okay. Okay, there it goes. It's running. We did get the email, right? And let's look at the email as well. Okay, so now I got an email. It says meet tomorrow, and I'm allowing my users, or I'm sorry, I'm allowing my customers, or whoever this person is, I'm allowing them to give me information just in the form of a button. I'm not making them reply. I'm not making them type. I'm just saying, okay, hey, would one of these options work for you? They say, oh yeah, for sure. And so now that I've clicked that, what should happen next is that is registered, right? The for sure is registered. And then based on, oh, well, I guess there was something wrong with the way I typed it, probably. For sure. Okay, anyway, so there must be something in the spacing, or maybe I need to use quotes here. Let's just try this again real quick. Instead of, let's just keep these simple. Yes, no, maybe. Okay, and we'll say if the is yes, then send me an email. Okay, so we'll just keep this simple for the sake of this demo. All right, let's test this again. Go with this one again. And the flow is running. Should get an email, which we did. So right here. Okay, so should we send out specialists to your office tomorrow? Yes. Now let's see what it does when I click yes. All right. Okay, so I should get an email now, which is okay. Anyway, I'll hopefully get an email very soon. But so this probably gives you an idea of like what we are trying to do here. Go tomorrow. Did we get an email yet? Go tomorrow. We don't have it yet. Equals yes. Send me an email notification. Anyway, so what we're doing here is that we are actually looking for input from the customers, and based on the input, we take subsequent actions as well. So so all these sorts of like email interaction is very, very useful, especially in like dynamic scenarios, right? So for the longest of times, you have sent out emails with just information. So whether it's to customers or whether it's to like internal users, you've sent them information and then you make them reply, right? So you make them reply, click reply, and then they respond, which means that someone has to actually look at the response and then take an action. But here with the provision of buttons, with the provision of options within the email, the whole process is just so much more interactive and so much more like quantifiable, and all these things make the whole process very, very like automated and very, very smooth, right? So especially if you're like I said, you're a Dynamics customer, you're used to certain types of emails, but this will actually enhance all of that and automate your process even more. So another thing to keep in mind, just last thing here, is that notice how the trigger always is when a record is created or when a record is updated. There are certain situations when you can do some sort of a check, but unlike Dynamics where you can actually run a workflow on field changes, that's not available in Flow yet. Hopefully that'll change soon, especially because Flow apparently will replace classic workflows in Dynamics CE. But just keep that in mind, right? So your trigger, if it's on an update and your checks are easy, then definitely use Flow. But otherwise, give it a second thought. But anyway, whew, all right. Still haven't received the email, but hopefully I will. But I hope this video was helpful. So we looked at 3 different things. We looked at the approval mechanism, so like the basic approve and reject. Then we also looked at some custom responses where you can add your own values or add your own options within an email. And then we also saw how we can send out an email, which is not necessarily an approval email, but just send out an email to get input from customers or anyone else. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, if this is, intriguing, or if this makes some, bulbs go off, definitely post a comment or send me a message, and I will make sure to respond. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.